As the old saying goes, the fish stinks from the head, and the more we learn about the city of Bell, the fishier it becomes. Today, revelations that former Bell police officer James Corcoran alleged that off-duty police officers were told to distribute absentee ballots in a 2009 election and tell would-be voters which candidates to support. That's voter fraud. Corcoran says he was forced out of his job after 25 years after informing state and federal authorities and also reporting alleged misconduct involving Robert Rizzo. District Attorney Steve Cooley said he is looking into the city of Bell. He's been doing so since March. He's looking into allegations of voter fraud and conflicts of interest involving city business. Last night, the people of Bell had their say at a public hearing that ran until midnight. City council members took a 90% pay cut. The mayor and vice mayor will finish off their terms without pay. That did little to satisfy the crowd. Our contributors tonight, Charlotte Laws and David Reese. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. David, let's start with you. The crowd wanted council members to resign. Would that be the right thing to do and start fresh?
Oh, of course it would. I mean, you mean to tell me that these councilors and the mayor who were drawing these exorbitant, obscene salaries for all this time and only stopped when they got caught are now suddenly have seen the light and are going to do what's in the best interest of their community? I doubt it. You know, and they just need to be swept out. I mean, I just really, really hope that the citizens of Bell don't lose their resolve and that they make good on their promises to recall these folks. I mean, it is really offensive that an elected official would do something that is so blatantly disregards all of the population that they're supposed to represent. You're supposed to serve your public when you're in public office, not your checkbook. And that's what these people were doing. So they need to be swept out, absolutely.
All right. Well, it's funny because the council people said they would not resign. Now, Charlotte, the people in Bell are embarrassed. I'm talking about the citizens, and humiliated. They feel like they have become a laughing stock. In that situation, don't you think the council people would at least take it upon themselves to ease the pain and step aside?
I definitely think so. I think for every reason they should do it. First of all, I think they're going to be, in legal terms, I think they're going to be found guilty in the fact that their duties are not, their salary is not commensurate with their duties. And so I looked at their agendas today at their city council meetings for the past 7 months, and they essentially have one meeting per month. And on average, 5 agenda items per agenda. Some of them have one item. And the items are things like reviewing the minutes or reviewing the treasurer's report. I mean, the neighborhood councils, voluntary organizations, do a lot more, apparently, than this particular city council. But also, it's practical for them to resign because it's so easy to recall them. There are 10,000 registered voters in Bell. They only have to get 2,500 signatures to get it on the ballot, to get them to resign. It's $150,000 to get that on the ballot. It's going to happen. At the protest yesterday, there were supposedly as many as 2,000 people there. So it's going to be very easy to recall them. So for every single reason, it makes sense for them to step down right now.
Well, we'll see if they
It does, but you know what, Charlotte? I think there's an important distinction to be made here, too, that the investigation that the DA is doing is not into their salaries. It's into these allegations of voter fraud. What they did wasn't illegal, and that's the most appalling thing of all. They voted to pay themselves whatever they wanted, and there was nothing to stop them. There's no law against that.
No, it may be illegal if it's not in sync with what they're doing and what their salary is. It could end up being illegal.
Well,
that's what Jerry Brown
that's
says.
Pretty subjective, though.
Well, I'll tell you this: they're certainly guilty in the court of public opinion. Let's move on.
That's true.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Are you an American between the ages of 18 and 42? And if you are, what if I told you you're going to have to serve your country for 2 years? Doesn't matter what you're doing right now. If the president determined you were needed, you would drop everything and serve the country. It's House Bill H.R. 5741, currently before the Armed Services Committee. It would require all persons between the ages of 18 and 42 to perform national service either as a member of the uniformed services or in a civilian service in furtherance of the national defense and homeland security. It would authorize people into the service during wartime. It's not a draft. It'd be a requirement. The bill is authored by Democrat Charles Rangel of New York. Charlotte, not a draft. Everybody's got to do it. Do you think it's a good idea?
No, I don't. I think it's repugnant to the American idea of freedom and individual rights. And I have to wonder if this is some kind of diversion by Rangel, because Rangel has been brought up on all these ethics violations for taxes and gift violations and rent control properties and this and that. And he has a trial coming up in a couple of months. So one has to wonder if that's what this is all about, because it is really absurd, and I can't imagine it possibly passing.
Well, what are you suggesting, that he would go into the armed services and then not have to face trial?
I think that all the members of Congress, this would be the only way I would accept it, is there'd be a pilot program, and the members of Congress would all have to go in for 2 years in order to resume their posts in Congress. And there was no age limit. If they're 60 years old, 80 years old, you still got to go. But I was surprised to find out that this kind of mandatory military service is available in 26 countries. It's mandatory in 26 countries. I was really surprised to learn that. Places like Finland and Germany and Israel and Mexico.
Yep. David, what do you think?
God love you, Charlotte. Your pilot programs. I mean, seriously, love you to pieces. But this one doesn't need a pilot program. It doesn't need to be workshop. It doesn't need to be studies. It's a terrible idea. And Charlie Rangel is smoking crack if he thinks this is ever going to pass in a million years. Up to age 42, good Lord, these are people with careers. That would include me. So what am I supposed to do? Abandon my career, go to work for my government? I mean, come on. That's what we have AmeriCorps for. That's what we have a voluntary military for. And last time I checked, we're meeting our recruiting, quotas that we need to make. So we have an armed service. And some of this I know is not supposed to be armed service, but, we have volunteer programs. This is America. If you want to go do that, more power to you, and thank you to those people who do that, because without them we wouldn't be free, and I fully recognize that. But don't force me to go do it. That's just not American.
Well, the reason why Rangel's brought this up is because he has an issue with basically white rich people. And he says that 30% of the people in the military are minorities, and he wants to see the rich people out there fighting. And that's what this is all about. That's why he's bringing this up.
Is there any
it's never going to happen.
Yeah, is there any possibility this guy's going to be voted out of office? I mean, what kind of logic is that?
Well, he may go to jail. He's like Charlotte pointed out, he's got some very serious ethical and possible criminal charges against him. So he may be going bye-bye on his own.
Maybe he needs to take care of himself right now. Okay. We've already talked about the city of Bell. Thankfully, the city of Los Angeles doesn't have those kinds of problems. But Los Angeles does have problems. The budget is a mess. The mayor has been maligned. At one point, the president of the city council had to admonish members for reporting late to work. It seems like the city is sinking in quicksand. Later, Councilman Ed Reyes will join us live here on The Filter. David, I'll give you 60 seconds. Councilman Reyes is in the other room watching. What do you want to say to him?
I don't even need 60 seconds. I'll just tell you the one thing that really cooks my goose is the city council's interest in all things global and nothing local. Focus on our city. Stop meddling in what Arizona's doing. This is Los Angeles. I need you, and we elected you to help run our city. So focus on our problems here. Stop looking across the street. Stop looking across the border over in Arizona, and focus on what's happening here. Stop kicking the problems down the street. Act on it now. Even if you do something I don't agree with, I will respect you for taking action. That's my message.
All right, but let me ask you this, just because you have about 25 more seconds when you talk about global. But if they look around globally as a city council, won't that help to encourage business and foreign trade here for Los Angeles?
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that's not what I'm speaking metaphorically, Fred. Okay. I mean, I just want them to do things that are in the city's best interest and that do things for the people of Los Angeles. Passing resolutions about, how we feel about Arizona does nothing for me. I live in the city of L.A. I didn't elect you to take a stand on Arizona's laws. I elected you to represent me and my best interests in my city. And that's just what I want them to focus on. We spend far too much time focusing on things that really don't matter and are too symbolic. I need concrete action. That's what we really need in our city leaders.
Charlotte, you've got a minute. What do you want to say to the councilman?
Well, I think that the city council has not been doing their research lately, and when you look at something like DWP, I think they were snookered by DWP. They're raising the salaries of people there when the salaries of those public employees are probably the highest in the country. They're raising electric rates that didn't need to be raised. They are making emotional decisions, like David mentioned with the boycott on Arizona, rather than saying, wait a minute, how is this going to affect people in Los Angeles and businesses in Los Angeles? And then after the fact going, oh no, what about the coal plant in Arizona, and we get 21% of our power from there, and oh no, what about that? And then today they had the super shuttle issue, which brings $1.3 million to LA and 250 jobs. And the unions is another issue. So, catering to the unions, but not really looking at the average person and the pensions of those people in the unions. Experts said 10 years ago that the pensions would be in one place, but they're 500 times more than they were supposed to be. So that kind of thing, not looking at the average taxpayer, but instead saying, we only care about our emotion or our special interests.
Well, Councilman Reyes will be joining us in a bit. We'll talk to him. David and Charlotte, thanks for joining us tonight. Great job, and I'll talk to you again soon.